All right. Sorry for the delay start, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies. I was a little too invested into the game and my bed is a little too comfortable. And then I realized, oh crap, I have a live show to do and I have to get the lights turned on and everything going. I didn't even have the little game overlay that you guys can see in the bottom ready to go. That's how much of a slow start that I'm off to today. So this might be a bumpy show, but to help me with today's show is my friend and friend of the channel, Super Mario Hoops. I have to stand up for this. I had to
Mhm.
rock the Super Mario shirt in
I
order of
love
his
that.
appearance. Not that you haven't been on this channel like 100 times before, but how you doing, Super Mario? What's going on, man?
Doing pretty good. Just been chilling. I also appreciate that shirt. That's actually my favorite, not only Mario game, but game ever.
Yes,
I
sir.
literally know that game for like the back of my hand. So I appreciate I literally have a poster of it in my room, but I'm not
Yep, I've seen it
there right
before.
now. But yeah, so I'm doing good. It's always good vibes here when the Suns win.
Yes,
So
sir.
you know it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. You guys go check out Super Mario's content. I'll make sure to put the link down below in the description. And thank you for being available for the show and joining me. I know that we didn't originally plan to do this, but I do appreciate you offering your services and being here and
Mhm.
pretty much helping me carry this show today because I'm off to a very slow start. But for once, though, I'm actually not drinking on tonight's show, but I am drinking a Coca Cola. What do you got, man?
I always have water. It's really
Yes,
bad. I have
sir.
so many water bottles just laying around here.
I got a little bit of a water on the side because I'm saving my drinking for Friday when we play the Lakers, I believe. So, let me know what you guys are drinking in the chat, y'all. Take a sip of this, and we will get started and talk about this Suns win. Cheers.
Cheers.
So Landry Shamet closes the game out to make the Suns win 128 to 118 in a game that was sort of full of runs, in my opinion. But at the same time, it kind of felt like the Suns had that 10-point lead and then kind of continued it. The game was a little, not like super too close for comfort, but it was closer than I think the Suns wanted it to be. I know they struggled a little bit in that third quarter. Um, Offensive rebounds and second chance points really killed the Suns, but Kevin Durant was in control of this game. He heard the boos, he heard the talking, and that's probably the one guy you don't want to boo or talk trash to because then he's just going to go out there and drop 35 points in 35 minutes like he did tonight. So, Super Mario Hoops, maybe you saw the game a little differently, and we're obviously going to dive all into this and talk all about it, go over the stats and everything. But what did you see tonight, man? What are your opening thoughts, your takeaways? And just talk to me, man. What's going on?
Well, I think coming into the game, and I even like told you for this matchup in particular, like the last few times they played, like Booker like destroyed the Thunder.
Yeah.
So it seemed like from the jump, like Mark Daigneault, like his game plan was just go in there and like don't let Booker kind of take over the game. Well, early on, like he still was kind of doing his thing.
Yep.
Like honestly, he was kind of making Lou Dort look ridiculous out there. Which I mean, that's a whole nother topic that he hasn't really been great lately for them, but it is what it is. But anyways, so I think like Booker had it going early on, and then the second quarter I thought was like a really good showing just in general. Third quarter was kind of similar to what we
Yeah.
saw like within that Kings game and the one who is this I think it was maybe the Sixers game too.
Yeah.
I think it was the last two times I was on here, and like both those games, like the third quarter was kind of like the down quarter, and then
Sort of been a trend at times this season for the Suns, even before we got KD. But go on.
yeah, and then in the fourth quarter, I think the thing that was most impressive is that like so in the first few minutes of the quarter, so I thought it was interesting that like I don't know what Monty like sees necessarily with it, but like so he sits Booker for I think more. He sat him for more time at the start of the fourth quarter today than he did the
Yeah.
other
I
three
noticed
quarters
that.
combined.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe you should bring him in because like they started like chipping away a little bit. And he also I think did one little stretch where there was no Durant, no Booker, and no Paul, like just for like a minute or something in the third quarter, and then that's when it like also was going bad. It's like I feel you can't do that. Like, you got to have one of those guys on the floor at all times, just as like a safety net. But then they started coming back, and then he brings Booker back in. But the good thing about it is that like maybe it was just because like Booker was drawing some attention away from like some of their elite defenders, but like literally they won this game down the stretch without him. Like Kevin Durant had, back-to-back corner threes, and then he had that one in the wing. Chris Paul had some like dagger
clutch shots. Yeah, dagger. Yeah.
Ayton was dominating inside. So there were guys, I mean, even you said Landry Shamet hit that three to close the game.
Your boy like, Landry Shamet. I had to say that just because you.
My boy Landry Shamet. So there were guys that were stepping up. It almost didn't feel like they needed Booker to close this one out. And that's kind of a good thing because like it helps with the other guys. When there is teams that Booker routinely like dominates against, like they're going to probably game plan a lot for him. Sometimes when like Durant was on the Warriors and like if, Curry would be such a huge matchup nightmare, teams might throw multiple guys at him. And there's going to be some nights too where teams are going to throw multiple guys at Durant, and then Devin Booker is going to have to take over down the stretch of games, or Chris Paul as well, and stuff like that. Yeah. So seeing that, like the way they adjusted like that, I think that's pretty important. But yeah, and I thought honestly, like Ayton was doing a pretty good job at like getting inside and like trying to take advantage of. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the last like 5 minutes, I think Josh Giddey was playing center. Like, right. Like you gotta every time you gotta give him the ball, and I think they like Jalen Williams, not even the center Jalen Williams, like the other one. I can't even say the rookie Jalen Williams because they're both rookies. But you know what I mean.
The other Jalen Williams is that the one from Arkansas? He's kind of got bigger hair than the other Jalen Williams. It's so confusing.
They both got big hair, but he was from I think Santa Clara.
Yeah.
But the good one, basically, the good Jalen Williams. No disrespect, but no, I think honestly, like every time you got to get him the ball, and sometimes like when they were moving the ball around and finding Durant for an open three, I thought Chris Paul was being aggressive down the stretch. I wish he would be, more aggressive when he's able to throughout a game rather than like just at the end of the game where he's like, okay, like I'm this level player, I'm a Hall of Fame level talent, I got to take over. Like if they're giving it to him, which there's often times in the like throughout the game, the first 3 quarters that they do, and like sometimes he just refuses to even look at the basket. Like he had 9 shots today, and I'm willing to bet that like half of them were in the fourth quarter, or more than half of them were in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So that's just something I would note there, but it is good that he was being aggressive there. I think like the one thing that made this one hard is that the bench wasn't really great. Yeah. Like, I mean, we saw like the one game, I don't remember which one of the two it was we saw, but we saw like Biyombo. I know Biyombo started in that game, but like he went crazy.
Yeah.
And TJ Warren went off, and Terrence Ross.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think Craig even had a good game. Like if all those guys play good, and Jock Landale, he had a good game too that game. If all those guys play well in a game, like you're probably going to win.
Yep.
Even without Durant playing there. Then if you add a healthy Kevin Durant to the mix, like then you're definitely going to win. Yeah. But today it's like, TJ Warren, I mean, he didn't shoot bad, but he just didn't give any looks, only contributed like 6 points. Biyombo only 3 points. Ross had nothing.
I didn't even notice half of the bench guys, to be honest. This game was all about the starters.
Yeah.
Although there were some bench moments that I will talk about later, but I agree with you pretty much on.
I would even just say like the big 4 really, because Akogi didn't really like do a whole lot either, and like offensive rebounds he didn't get any. He's usually good for maybe 1 or 2 a game. Yeah. So it just felt like a game where the stars needed to show out, and they did. Even on the other side, I mean, Shea is their star, and he had like 39 points. And like half of them were free throws, which is kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. Like that's another thing too. I don't think the Suns, did they even have a first quarter free throw or no?
It wouldn't surprise me. I just know this was that I mean, I don't know what they finished the game with. I'm actually looking right now, but I do know that there was, I think, 9 minutes left in the third, and the Thunder already had 34 free throws. They
Yeah.
finished the game with 41. The Suns finished the game with 20 or 28 free throws attempted, 23 made. So I don't know. It didn't seem like they got to the line very much. I'll tell you that much.
I will say too, though, like, because I remember I checked like earlier in the game. I think the Suns had taken less threes. You know, obviously they have a lot of guys that work within 10 to 15 feet. And yet, like, I think the Thunder still had like 10 more free throws than them at that point, which that's kind of crazy. What I will say, though, about the Suns is that, like, even though that's definitely true, that like that exists, like, that probably they get a raw deal with some of the calls more than a lot of other teams. That at the same time, like, sometimes, I mean, they are leading the league in fouls. And like, I think part of that is just like when they strip the ball. I don't know if you saw like that one. There were like two instances late in the game where I think they got like an and one, and I know one of them for sure. Like Booker tried, like, it was after, like, he remember when Lou Dort like drove in for a layup and he like fell over or something.
Yep.
And then
was that on the transition, that fast break? Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
And then Booker smacked down. But like, I feel like it's not even just him. Like, I've seen Torrey Craig do it. I've seen Chris Paul do it. I think I've seen Shamit do it a couple times. Like, sometimes they get in this habit where they're looking at the player more than they're looking at the ball.
Right.
And a lot of guys, like, I'll take Patrick Beverley, for example, on my Bulls. Like, he's always like basically got his eye on the ball, and that's why he's got great hands like that. Or Kawhi, like, same thing. So I think like they get caught up looking at the player more times than not, and like, you know, they'll reach down or something like that, but they'll probably get hand as well, and then it'll probably be called a foul, especially if it's like they're swiping down instead of they're trying to block the shot. Like, it's almost like it's not in motion yet, and then the hand's not part of the ball. So, I mean, yeah, I also think this is kind of like a weird pace game, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
I noticed that too.
And even like the fast break points, like this, the Suns had 6 fast break points in the whole game, and yet they had the most of the two teams because the Thunder only had 2.
Right.
So that, and it's not lack of turnovers because there was over 20 turnovers combined in this game. But like, the Suns didn't even have 1 fast break point for every 2 turnovers. The Thunder didn't have one. They had 1 fast break point for every 4 turnovers.
Right.
So, and actually that's inverse. So the Suns had like 1 for every like 6.5 by the Suns. It was just kind of bad. But yeah.
I 100% agree with you on how you were talking about the pace and like the energy, especially in that third quarter. That was one thing I noticed. I thought the energy and the pace was really good in the first half in terms of the Phoenix Suns, but it seemed like we talked about it before, that third quarter, that seems to be a trend with this team. It was just energy, sort of body language in a way for that third quarter. But yeah, this was a strange game. And I also just think it's and I don't want to make excuses for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, these guys are professionals. They got to get it together, and they got to get it together now. But they are still learning with KD. There was a few times, even with KD on the court, there's a lot of defensive breakdowns. Guys weren't where they should have been, is what I'm trying to say. There was that one play where like Lou Dort was like, I think on the weak side or whatever, he's in that corner 3, and he was wide open for like 10 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he ended up hitting the 3. And then just a few other times where just guys weren't supposed to be where they should have been. And it's just a learning curve at this point. This is why I keep going back to wishing that we had like 10 more games this season to figure it out. And it's sort of a bad trend with the Suns. It seems like they have a really great first half. I mean, someone in the chat mentioned that we had 42 points in the second quarter, which is awesome. And even though the game was kind of rough for the Suns in the first quarter, I mean, I think the Thunder were in zone defense, I want to say, in that first quarter, and the Suns were struggling to score. They eventually clawed their way back with a surprisingly good effort from Cameron Payne, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But you also talked about like the turnovers and the fast break points. I mean, 13 turnovers isn't too terrible, but the Thunder had 8. And it's funny because the Suns have actually done a really damn good job really the past few games of taking care of the basketball, and that is absolutely huge. But that was just some of my takeaways. I think he did a great job of summing everything up First off, shout out to my guy Hitman X, longtime supporter of this channel. He's been here during the dark days. He was here in my early days of this YouTube stuff. He also likes to do some Suns videos here and there. So shout out to him and make sure to go check him out. Once again, you guys, I am live with my friend of the channel, Super Mario Hoops. Everyone go subscribe to his YouTube channel. So I just want to talk before we really dive into like the stats and everything, just some takeaways on my end, just some notes that I wrote down. I sort of already referenced that first half in the first quarter, how, you know, it was a game full of runs. The Suns struggled with the zone defense and everything, but they had a nice little run to end that first quarter. I want to talk about a Torrey Craig play real quick, and I'm sure that you saw this. Torrey Craig pretty much dove into the first row, the expensive seats, to save the ball. And at first I was like, oh, Craig, why'd you do that, man? Like, save that for later, you know, and that's always dangerous too for the crowd and for the player themselves. But he saved the ball somehow. And then I think it led to an and one in the transition. And it finished with Torrey Craig, the and one, I should say. It was amazing. Like the amount of time that he took just to get back on that play was Dennis Rodman-esque. Am I crazy to say that? I couldn't believe that he did that. I had to talk about that. It was awesome. Someone pointed this out on Twitter that at one point in this game, the Thunder were shooting 6 for 18 from 2, but they had 6 made threes. So it was just a weird scoring game, man. The Suns are a really bad team at closing out and guarding the 3 and everything. Also, I want to, you know what? Let's just dive into the stats because I really want to talk about Deandre Ayton first. And speaking of Deandre Ayton, I think we got to play his drop.
The Phoenix Suns select Deandre Ayton.
So you talked about it, and I saw some other people talking about it on Twitter and stuff, but this was, at least from what I remember from your great analysis earlier, was you sort of referenced Deandre Ayton and everything. I said last show that this was a game where Deandre Ayton really needed to show up, and that's kind of why I wanted to start with him since we're diving into the box score and the stats and all that. Deandre Ayton tonight, 31 minutes, 19 points, 11 boards, 8 for 12 from the field, got to the free throw line 4 times, hit 3 of them. I also wanted to start with Deandre Ayton because he was in my notes. I want to talk about maybe the last 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. Besides Deandre Ayton needing to work on his hands, I thought he was pretty damn good late in the fourth quarter. I thought he was very patient. I mean, there was one play, I want to say, with maybe 3 minutes to go-ish, where he had the ball. It was kind of when he fumbled the ball, I should say, you know, going back to the bad hands thing and everything. He had the ball, kind of fumbled it. I think it ended up back to him, and he went up and drew the foul, and then he hit the free throw. And then there was another play, too, where he was using his size down in the paint, and Chris Paul was kind of in the left corner, and Deandre Ayton was doing this, like saying, get to Chris Paul. I thought that was good patience, and then it ended up back to Deandre Ayton, and he slammed it down. And this goes back to the many conversations that I've had and just the Suns community has had about learning this new offense with Kevin Durant and how important Deandre Ayton ties into all of this. Is there were so many plays, there were a few plays this game where Deandre Ayton was rim running, and we all know the Deandre Ayton doesn't dunk thing, which is still true. But it sort of caught me by surprise a few times when he was rim running and he would catch the ball and he would lay it up and in, but it was the athleticism and the finesse that he would finish with. But I thought that fourth quarter from Deandre Ayton, just kind of doing the simple things out there, was absolutely huge. He is going to be a key component to this offense and the Phoenix Suns' success in the playoffs. And again, this was a game where I truly believe that he needed to show out. That's why I wrote him in the notes. That's why I wanted to talk about him. Any thoughts on Deandre Ayton? Did you see something maybe I didn't see? I don't really know how he was in the first half, to be honest, but I just had to give my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think for me with Ayton, like when you were talking about like, you know, like kick it to Chris Paul, like kick it to the shooter and stuff like that. Like, I mean, he definitely was, even though people like to clown him for his work ethic and stuff like that. And then like, oh, he's lazy sometimes. Like he was the first overall pick for a reason. And I think it's what you see with the Suns team now. It's kind of similar to like that college team that he was on, like with Alonzo Trier and like Raul Alkins and stuff like that.
Guys
Like,
who aren't in the league.
well, okay,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, my point is that like he was surrounded by a lot of guys in the perimeter that could shoot and they could put the ball on the floor. And like now what you see, like when you add Kevin Durant, when you add Terrence Ross, when you add TJ Warren, right? And now Cameron Payne probably is going to have more opportunity. He didn't really play a whole lot tonight, but he's going to have like more opportunity probably in the playoffs. Like prior to the deadline, like you kind of had Chris Paul who could do that, of course. You had Devin Booker who could do that, of course. But other than that, like not so much. I know Mikal Bridges can, but it's not like he was used in that aspect. Like that's not how he was used really much in the Sun system. So like I feel like it's a little different for him now, and it kind of like is bringing that back. I mean, when he was in college, they were the 1 seed. So I don't know. I think maybe it'll spark that a little bit playing with Kevin Durant. And I mean, obviously those other guys too, but primarily KD, like it's going to bring out the best in a lot of players around him just because it's going to get more opportunities for him. So I don't know. I thought personally that he played good and he was, like I said, he was aggressive late in the game when really first of all, they had nobody who could guard him, even if the big man Jalen Williams was playing. Like who the best guy who probably would be able to guard him would probably be Saric, just because he knows him better, because like inside from the Suns, but he's too small for Ayton. Like there's Isaiah Joe, no way. Like
that's where I was saying, I was like it all kind of depends on the matchups, but like DeAndre Ayton just commands so much size out there and so much focus in a way. Like even if he's playing against Nikola Jokic, who DeAndre Ayton's numbers against Jokic are actually really solid. It's like it all kind of depends on the matchup. But this is a game where I was like, DeAndre Ayton, if you don't have a good game this game, we're gonna have a long conversation on the post-game show and all that, because this was a game where you should have dominated. And sure, you know, maybe the blocks could have gone up, but the defensive presence out there, and again, just the size of DeAndre Ayton just being out there, I think is really, really big. Also, real quick, shout out to Gambino for the $5 super chat. You totally didn't have to do that, man, but I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody that's being here. We got 43 people. We've been alive for about 24 minutes now. So go ahead, y'all, get those likes up and crush that like button. Share the show. Tell people about Suns Geek. I want to also move on. I seem to be having a bad.
Can I bring up one stat real quick since we're talking about Ayton? Mm-hmm. So the Thunder's last 4 games too, and really in their last 6 games, I'll say, 5 of those 6 games, the center on the other team got a double-double. Like just to factor in how dominant the center should be, because they played the Lakers. AD was insane. They played the Hornets, and Nick Richards had a double-double. Right. They played the Pistons, and James Wiseman had a double-double. Then they played the Pacers, and Jalen Smith, your guy, had a double-double. And then tonight, DeAndre Ayton. And really, they almost let Drew Eubanks get a double-double. I mean, other than AD and, of course, Ayton, like those other 4 are not great centers by any means. I mean, like they're okay. They're decent, maybe. But, like, Drew Eubanks, no. I mean, James Wiseman is still trying to find his footing in the league. So this definitely should have been a chance for DeAndre Ayton to dominate the glass, which, I mean, he did. He probably even could have done more, but he did so enough because I think he was the leading rebounder in this game. So, probably. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I would believe that. I'm just double checking. Yes, he was the leading rebounder. He had 11.
Yeah.
The most anybody on the Thunder had was 9. But thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. What I was going to get to next, though, was I feel like I've been doing a bad job of not starting these live shows with talking about the one and only Kevin freaking Durant. Kevin freaking Durant, 35 points in 35 minutes hit those back-to-back clutch kind of late threes in the fourth quarter when it was needed. Both of them are from the corner, from the exact same spot pretty much. But not only that, Super Mario, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. Now, we all know that Kevin Durant is more than a scorer, and the real ones know that Kevin Durant is a great defender, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And like, maybe I'm a casual for saying this, but I knew like Kevin Durant averaged whatever assists he averages, maybe like 5 or 4, whatever it is, maybe more than that. I didn't, pretty much what I'm trying to say is I didn't know that he was this good of a playmaker. And if you go back to the shows that you've been on and the last few shows since we got KD, I feel like I keep saying that. Kevin Durant is such a great playmaker. Kevin Durant had this nice pass to Devin Booker, or there was a couple times where he passed it to Josh Okogie, or his Deandre Ayton pick and roll, whatever it is. Kevin Durant is an excellent playmaker tonight, and we saw a lot of that. And it just goes to show that Kevin Durant is just one of the greatest players in the league and of all time. And I really think that, including for myself, it's opening my eyes to how great of a playmaker he is. But the defense, I want to share a play with you, and I know you saw this. This was, maybe I'm hyping this up a little bit too much, but in my personal opinion, let me just pull this up on my end. In my personal opinion, this was one of the best blocks of this season. We're going to react to it right now. Just double checking. Yeah, I'm sure you already know this one. This is beautiful. Look at this. He just comes out of nowhere, blocks SGA. Beautiful. I mean,
and it was clean too.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Thunder's broadcast, and they're like, "Oh, that's definitely a foul," and I'm like, what they don't realize is that like, even if he got the hand, he's in the upward motion, and the hand's part of the ball, right? Yep. I always think back to that one game where my guy D Rose had 7 threes against the Lakers, and they didn't call a foul at the very end when he shot one, and he got hit on the hand by Tyson Chandler. And they're like, oh, the hand's part of the ball. So ever since then, I've always gone by that. Like they said, hand's part of the ball, hand's part of the ball. And that right there, like that's a clean block by
NBA
rules.
This angle's good too. This is from the Suns Twitter account. I mean, like, because this is from somebody, it looks like they're probably on the left side on the floor too. Like, look at this. Like, it's all ball, man. They slow it down at the perfect time. It kind of looks like it clanked off the rim, but he hit it off the rim.
He gets part ball and part hand, but at the same time, that's still a block. Like
that's one of the best blocks I've seen this season, man.
And I will say about KD is that even earlier in the season with Brooklyn, I don't know if people remember, because obviously the season has been so up and down and stuff. Yeah. He had a few nasty blocks like that with Brooklyn earlier in the year. Like I'd have to look him up, but
I think I know what you're talking about.
He had some crazy blocks early in the year too.
I just wanted to react to this play, man, because again, Kevin Durant and the defense is just absolutely incredible. But going back to what we all know KD does each and every single night is just the scoring and just the ease that he is scoring with, especially on this Phoenix Suns roster. And this kind of goes back to DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker and commanding so much attention and focus. It's just so easy for Kevin Durant, man. He just scores the ball. Doesn't matter who's in front of him. Doesn't matter how well you are contesting the shot. It's pretty much going in, man. I mean, we saw him struggle that first game back where he had like 16, 8 and 4 or whatever. But there was a point in that game when he came back from the ankle injury where he got it going. And we saw it tonight. Just kept putting the ball on the rim from the mid range or 3, especially late or in the fourth quarter, I should say. And again, the playmaking was incredible. Was there anything that you saw that maybe I didn't? Any thoughts on Kevin Durant?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is probably going to be a repetitive thing. Like the more and more I'm on the show,
like, I don't even know what to say about.
But it's like, man, he's just Kevin Durant. Like, Durant, like there's just so many things he could do, and like at least for the playmaking, like I was just pulling it up, like as you were talking. So over the last 10 years, he's averaging 5.5 assists.
That's kind of what I thought. I was like, it has to at least be 5 assists. Like I didn't have the number, but I figured it was that.
And every season he's averaged at least over 4, like every individual year. And as well, what I will say is that like if you think about like league average field goal percentage, that's probably like 48% or so. So like if he's passing the ball and it's successful 5.5 times, that means he's probably setting up his teammates about 11 to 12 times a game. And also from that stretch, he's shooting 18 shots a game. So for every 5 times he gets the ball and he's creating a play, 3 of them are shots, 2 of them are setting teammates up. So I think that's definitely when you think about it like that, like he's underrated as a playmaker and setting up his teammates and stuff. I think in a lot of the games so far he's played this year, he's done a good job at like getting Ayton involved
Yeah.
a lot more too. And that's something that's huge sometimes, like when they need that. So
especially with the rim running and the pick and rolls, like they got to do that more often, man.
yeah. I will shout out to the I don't know if he's in here, but remember the guy I don't remember his name, unfortunately. He might be in here, but when we did the Suns Mavericks live stream about a month or so ago, and he's like,
Yeah.
I was hoping KD would get 35. Well, there you go.
There you go. He got 35.
Kevin Durant got 35 tonight. But the one thing that like this isn't even like a Suns thing, but like I could just say in general, like it's been 7 years. Like, can the Thunder fans stop booing Kevin Durant? Like,
Preach.
Because they need to stop booing him because, okay, he left, fine. But everyone, like, wants to hate him more just because he went to the Warriors.
Let
like,
him cook. Let him cook
Remember
now.
this?
Let him cook.
But no, the thing is, like, okay, I thought personally, like, I would have had no problems with him leaving, and I think 99% of NBA fans wouldn't have had a problem with him leaving. It's only because he went to the Warriors. But what difference does that make for the Thunder? It's like, you know, he probably was going to leave, or at least like we all felt that way. I thought maybe he'd go to like Boston or like the Wizards were rumored then or something, but like they just got to get over it. Like it's been 7 years. Like they haven't done anything since. I mean, they haven't won a playoff series like since he left, and he almost got them past the 73 win Warriors.
Right.
So I mean, and he should get his jersey retired by them one day, even though they're probably going to do him like Orlando's doing Shaq, but he deserves his jersey retired one day. And I still stand on it that he's the greatest Thunder player ever. You can say Russell Westbrook, you can say the Gary Payton with the Sonic, Nick Collison, the legend, but it is Kevin Durant. I've always felt that way, and I think that they need to get over it. A lot of these young fans too, they never even saw him with the Thunder. They don't know like the impact of that. So many people
became like rookie KD and all that stuff.
Now we're like 7 years removed from that. Like there's so many people that became bandwagon Warrior fans after he joined. Right. So it's like, dude, like we got to get over it. Like everyone, there always is a time. Like Raptor fans got over it with Vince Carter, like years later. I think the Pacers fans, they're kind of doing something wrong too with Paul George. Like they need to get over that as well. I literally went to the game when Paul George returned to Indiana this year, and they're like, boo, like you suck. And I'm like, dude, like, come on, man.
Like when he's healthy, he's still one of the best two-way players in the league.
Like, dude, you're mad because he walked away from CJ Miles and suspended Monte Ellis. Like, come on.
Right. Real quick, just random thought that I had, because I love NBA history. Has Minnesota retired Kevin Garnett's jersey yet?
One thing I will say is I'm bad at remembering.
I don't remember either. I just you were talking about how like the Magic didn't do it with Shaq and all that. I'm like, I hope Minnesota did that with KG, because if not, that's petty stuff.
Just because. I mean, I would think that they would. I don't think they did. I know he got to retire by Boston, because I remember that, but
I remember that too.
I don't think he has yet, but he should too. I mean,
that's my point. I'm like, they need to go ahead and do that already. And my only thoughts on the Thunder booing Kevin Durant is like, I get it from a fan's perspective. Like I've booed certain former Phoenix Sun players and certain players in the league because we're fans. We boo, right, when we're at the game.
But they were the worst shooting team in the league. Exactly. He was the only shooter.
Well,
had Andre Roberson starting.
I was just going to say, if there is, again, kind of like I said earlier, if there's one guy you don't want to boo, it's probably Kevin Durant or LeBron James. I mean, I saw this one thing on LeBron where like fans were booing him and trash talking him, and LeBron just took over. Like it's just one of those things. Like, and I think that's what happened. Like we saw Kevin Durant literally do this. Like he was saying, keep talking, keep talking. It seemed like he was kind of talking to somebody on the sidelines too. They kept booing him, and every time he'd score, the boos got a little quieter. I think that that's one guy you don't want to do that to is Kevin Durant.
one thing too, if I can just add to that, like, so of those guys that were even in the rotation of that Thunder team he left, between Westbrook and Ibaka, Steven Adams, Dion Waiters, Roberson, Ennis Cantor, and Randy Foye. Those were like the main 8,
Oh, man,
along
you're
with Durant.
bringing me back right there. You're bringing me back.
And none of those guys were competent 3-point shooters by any means. Like at that point, right? Like maybe Randy Foye way back in the day. Okay. Dion Waiters, not so much. And everyone else, I mean, Ibaka, yeah, but like at what volume? Westbrook is known as a bad 3-point shooter. Adams doesn't shoot him. Cantor, no. Like, they're mad because he left a team when the game was changing into like the 3-point era, and he left to go to a team that wanted to promote that, right? I get it. Like, they won 73 games. I wasn't thrilled that he went there either, but if he went to a team like Boston or something like that too, I wouldn't have minded, really. And I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have cared, just because they saw, like, prior to that, like LeBron's move, or they saw, like the Celtics, like when they formed the Big Three, or things like that,
Right. No, I agree with you, man. I just think it's bad to boo Kevin Durant, because that's just the one guy you don't want to do that to. But moving on, there's a few other players that I want to talk about, and we can probably talk about the Thunder here in a little bit, because we're almost at 40 minutes, Super Mario. Holy cow, the show has flown by, and I appreciate you being here. Y'all, after the show, I'll put Super Mario's link in the chat. Go check out his YouTube channel. Does great content over there. Has been on this channel so many times. We don't have to spend too much time on this because it's Devin Booker being Devin Booker, but let's talk about Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker tonight, 22 points on 8 for 14 shooting. I like those numbers right there. 8 for 14 shooting. Got to the free throw line 5 times, had 10 assists, did have 5 turnovers and 4 fouls. Seemed a little pissed off when he got like that 3rd foul or whatever. And you kind of referenced how he was out of the game for a certain amount of time and Monty's rotations and all that. But it was Devin Booker again, man, just, hitting big shots when needed, seemed in control. And I cannot reference this enough again. The playmaking tonight was absolutely huge, because we kind of talked about it earlier, how the bench was pretty much a non-factor. I mean, even though everybody besides Terrence Ross, who played on the bench, scored, didn't really have too much help from the bench. So Devin Booker took over, and he doesn't get 10 assists very often, but it's always noticeable when he does get it. And I thought that he was pretty damn good tonight. 8 for 14 shooting is very efficient. He had that one shot where he was very patient. I want to say in the mid-range. It was kind of like on the side. And I don't know how he hit it, but the ball flew like 50 feet in the air and just sunk in.
Devin
Booker was
I think
great.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything you saw from Booker tonight? If not, we can kind of move on.
Yeah. It was kind of, I think that if that's the play you're talking about, it was the one where, like, he threw it up. It almost didn't look like a shot. It looked like a lob or something. Yep. And it just went in. I was like, wow. Like, that was
that's
crazy.
Devin Booker, man.
But yeah, I mean, Booker was doing Booker things just like always. I like that he was kind of able to, like, let Durant, let Chris Paul kind of take over down the stretch of games, and then, like, kind of be there. It almost felt like as a decoy in the 4th quarter.
Exactly. I like that word too.
Decoy.
Yeah, the decoy. Because I've been saying that ever since we got KD. I was like, DeAndre Ayton's going to be a decoy. This player's going to be a decoy. Decoy.
Josh Okogie. No. Landry Shamet.
Sometimes Josh Okogie can be a decoy.
Landry Shamet's a decoy for the other team usually.
Speaking of your boy Landry Shamet, just want to get this out of the way real quick. Played 12 minutes tonight. Seems like he hasn't played in a while. I can't tell you what he did on defense, but he is active out there, and he hit a couple shots, and he hit that 3 to pretty much close the game. That's all I wanted to say on Landry Shamet. So I don't know.
Ooh.
I just had to talk about Landry Shamet real quick, and I always keep forgetting to change this Kevin Durant graphic after we're done talking about him.
Everything is Kevin Durant.
Speaking of game, little graphics and overlays, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. You can scan those little QR codes right there, or just search Suns Geek and you'll find me, or Suns Geek on YouTube, whatever it is. Also follow me on Twitter. I've been tweeting crazy things lately. I almost jinxed the Mavericks into a win. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Let's talk about the Thunder real quick, man. Both Jalen Williams played. It gets a little confusing. They had 12 and 7. Let me see. I'm just trying to get some notes here. Shea, SGA, 39 minutes, and I can't talk. 38 minutes, scored 39 points, 5 assists. And I just want to talk about this real quick. 17 for 17 from the free throw line. I referenced the free throws earlier. We sort of had a slight conversation about it. He seems to get to the line against the Suns, and the refs are always blowing that whistle. Josh Giddey, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists in 35 minutes. But he was 5 for 16 shooting. Ooh, real quick, speaking of Lou Dort, who I was just going to reference, you kind of said that he hasn't been like as good. There was one shot that Kevin Durant had where he got Lou Dort so high up in the air. And I want to say maybe it was like Aaron Wiggins or somebody else helped close out, and KD still hit the shot. I mean, like, who does that, man? Kevin Durant on that play was awesome. But Lou Dort did finish the game with 14 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And then Aaron Wiggins seems to seem like he likes to play the Suns, because he seems like he always puts up some points when he plays us. He had 14 tonight. Just going over some team stats real quick, and then I'll get your thoughts on the Thunder. Holy crap, man. The Suns shot 56.8% from the field tonight. That's insane, dude. The Thunder shot 41% if you round it out. We had 13 threes tonight. The Thunder had 11. We talked about the free throws. 35 for 41 for the Thunder, 23 for 28 for the Suns. We got out-rebounded 41 to 38. We had 31 assists tonight. And I talked about the turnovers earlier, 13 turnovers for the Suns, 8 for the Thunder. You kind of referenced the fast break points earlier. We actually had 6. They only had 2. But it was really the second chance points and the offensive rebounding that kind of killed us, especially in the second half. And the Suns had 30 fouls in this game, and we tied the points in the paint battle 46 to 46. So any thoughts just on the Thunder in general that maybe you didn't reference when I got your opening thoughts, or did any players stand out to you? Was there any thoughts on the box score or the team stats? Just because I feel like you did a great job of breaking that down earlier, but just any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I actually was looking up who, like, the team rankings for fast break points this year. Surprisingly, the Suns are actually ranked last with 10.5.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
But I'm also probably equally, maybe more surprised that the Thunder are 9th with 14.9 a game, considering, like, I mean, Shea plays at such like I feel like a casual pace in a way. Like, he kind of slows the game down.
Yeah.
Same thing with Josh Giddey.
The rim a lot and draws the foul.
And same thing with Josh Giddey.
Yeah.
Like, they both play a little bit slower, and I'm not
surprised.
surprised.
For them, though, too.
I'm just surprised. Like, most of the year they've had that. That's something I haven't really paid much attention to. But like today, like, they weren't really able to get much. And I think Josh Giddey, like, just kind of getting more consistent as a 3-point shooter as well. I feel like people, they're gonna have the stereotype that he's a great shooter or something. It's
great
a little
passer,
a little bit like Luka, just because he's like a foreign player,
Yeah.
But I feel like he needs to get more consistent with that. And I think it was Alex Hoops that said it on Twitter that, like, Lou Dort, even though he can be a great defender, like, the way he's been so bad offensively as of late, like, it almost makes it like too overwhelming that you can't play him as much as you want to, right? Like, he played 39 minutes today and he committed 4 fouls. Yep. He shot 28% from 3 and the field and 66% from the free throw line. Like, from your small forward, that can't be happening. Like, let's look at, I mean, I guess it's kind of unfair with Josh Okogie being there, but like, Kevin Durant's truly a small forward, even for how many shots he's taking, 62, 43, 100 splits. Like, it's just got to be better. And I think, at least with Jalen Williams, I feel like every time I lock in and I observe the better Jalen Williams, he never plays great. Like he'll have these great games when I'm not watching. That makes me think like he's, I don't know, finessing the stat sheet a little bit. But I don't know. Like it just seems a little weird. But I mean, he had some flashes tonight where he was pretty solid. I think too, like one thing for the Suns, going back to that, is just like sometimes Durant would have Dort on him, or he'd have J-Dub or Jalen Williams on him. And I feel like not only like I know Durant was kind of sometimes calling for like maybe a screen or something or whatever. And I feel like there's like 10 seconds of action that they could make something work before like ahead of time, that they would need to make something work to get a switch like that. Because then I think it was like a foul called or something. And then the next play, they made it work. And then like I think he got like Giddy on him or something.
Yeah.
Like that's a better matchup. Like I feel like it's not only just a thing with whoever has the ball, whether Durant has the ball, whether Booker has the ball, but I feel like other players should see that as well. Now, like in today's game, like it's different from 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, your center would set all the screens. Now
Right.
it's like anyone will set a screen.
Yeah.
Like
The Suns do a great job of that, man. Josh Okogie setting screens, or Booker or Paul, because they like to run their offense that way.
So like whoever sees that first, whoever's closest and knows they don't have like a defender like one of those guys. Like if it was the bigger Jalen Williams guarding Durant, he can't stand a chance. If it's Josh Giddey, he can't stand a chance. Shea's too small. I mean, Dort's also small, but I feel like he also is like strong enough to maybe like contain Durant to some degree. So like I feel like that's something else. But I don't know. The Thunder's bench was, I mean, Aaron Wiggins played pretty solid.
Yep.
Seems like last year it was around the end of the year where he started having like big games as well.
Yeah.
His minutes have been like inconsistent this year. Like sometimes
he seems to play well against the Suns though.
Yeah. Like I think he probably had like 10 straight games prior to like, or I think he had a good game against like the Pistons recently, but like he had like probably 10 games where he didn't hardly play and didn't hardly do anything prior to that. But then he's also had like 20 plus scoring games this year earlier. And then also like at the end of last year, I believe. So like, I wonder what they're going to do with him. Yeah. And then I think Isaiah Joe, he just kind of had a bad game, but he's been one of the best shooters in the league.
He's been a steal this year too, man. Like even though he had a bad game tonight, he's been playing great for them.
And he should have been in a 3-point contest over Randall. I still don't get why. But
and even though Damian Lee has gone out of the rotation, he still should have been in the 3-point contest because he was leading the league in percentage. Just saying.
And so should my guy Malcolm Brogdon. All of them. Just add more candidates, honestly. But yeah.
But no, I think I agree with you on all that. Just real quick on my personal thoughts on the Thunder. We're not going to spend too much time on this because we got a lot more to talk about. I feel like they kind of have a lot of good problems because they obviously got a lot of draft capital. You know, SGA is an all-star. They have a lot of great talent, like in the other Jalen Williams, who he had a couple nice plays tonight too. Chet Holmgren is waiting in the wings, and I'm assuming, I don't know what their salary cap thing is right now, but they probably got cap, which we're going to probably talk about the CBA stuff later. I think they have a lot of good problems to have. The thing though is we're talking about like an Aaron Williams or an Isaiah Joe. It's only 15 roster spots. They got to figure out something. I don't know if they have to just trade $1 billion of their draft picks and get a couple superstars or whatever, or trade for some superstars, build around SGA, build around Chet and all them. But eventually,
Brown, maybe the recent trade rumor.
I'm just saying, like their roster spots are going to run thin. They might have to make some tough decisions, but like maybe you hang on to an Isaiah Joe off that bench and all that. But I think that they have a lot of good problems. I think that they have a very bright future in this league. Sam Presti's done a great job. I can't pronounce their head coach's last name, but I think he's a really good coach. Seems like a nice guy too. I've seen some interviews and all that. That's my thoughts on the Thunder, man.
He reminds me of like a prime Quinn Snyder, the way he talks.
Yeah,
I guess like not the way he looks. I feel like he looks like what was that one movie? The Hathaway? No, I don't know what it was. It was like some horror movie or something. Like that's who he reminds me of. Or he looks like someone from like the Addams Family. Like probably sounds messed up, but it is what it is.
Shout out to everybody who is joining us after the Suns Jam Session podcast. They must have ended early tonight, or we're still going for whatever the case is. Those are my boys right there, though. We had a great live show last game against the Nuggets, where thanks to StreamYard, we were able to go live at the exact same time on both channels. Hallelujah for the internet, and shout out to StreamYard for allowing us to do that. Those are good friends of mine, and we support each other. So shout out to the Suns Jam Session podcast, I should say. And shout out to you, Super Mario Hoops, for helping me do tonight's show and saving me, because I had no clue what I was going to talk about. But I think this has been a pretty damn good show. So just any final thoughts, man? I mean, we can talk like about the standings. We can maybe spend a little bit of time talking about the new CBA deal. I have a couple of thoughts, but I don't really know like enough about it to really have like a solid opinion. I'm checking out the scoreboard right now for the games that are still being played. The Nuggets are up like 11 against the Warriors right now with 357.
Didn't I tell you that they would win that game? Because I saw.
I think you did, yeah.
I said because you guys won today, I bet the Warriors were going to try and choke the second half to avoid you guys. I think they're scared to play the Suns, honestly.
The Timberwolves blew, I think, a late game lead or whatever. They lost to the Blazers today. I almost jinxed the Mavericks to a win, but
Dude,
I want to defend myself though, because the Hawks blew the lead first, and then the refs saved them. And I tweeted out with just 1 second to go, the Mavs lost, and then that was when the refs did the jump ball, and then there was that stupid foul. And but anyways, either way, the Mavs lost and they suck.
The Mavericks are not even they're not even gonna make the play in. That it's so bad. I don't even know what's gonna happen with them, because like they didn't trade away too much, I guess, for Kyrie, but like you gave away
they traded away some key pieces.
Yeah, like Dorian Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie.
Yep.
I mean, you know firsthand how big Dinwiddie was last year in the playoffs. Like, so, and I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith, he was big in that first round series where it's like he was probably the primary defender on Donovan Mitchell, and sometimes he was even the primary defender on Booker too. Right. So like you get rid of that, like, dude, like they just can't rebound, they can't defend, and they don't even control their own destiny anymore. Like, think about that. And the other thing is too, like, so they're, even though the Thunder lost today and they're still one game ahead of them, like did you know the Thunder actually own the tiebreaker with the Mavericks? So
I thought I saw something that the NBA communications page tweeted out, but it's so confusing. Go on with your thought.
So the Mavericks would need to win 2 more games than the Thunder, like for the rest of the year. So there's only like 3 more games left for both teams. The Mavericks would have to go like 3-0 and the Thunder 1-2, or the Mavericks 2-0 and the Thunder lose the rest. And the Thunder play the Jazz. I think the Jazz have given up. So the Mavericks would have to go 3-0, and I don't know. They play my Bulls, who they've looked good today. They play the Kings.
Yeah, y'all won tonight, man.
That might have been the best win for us of the year. And
Kings lost to the Spurs tonight, by the way. Like, what the heck is going on?
Weirdly enough, I'm actually glad the Hawks won. Right. Not because
because we all want the Mavericks to lose.
it wasn't even that, but like, so if the Hawks had lost, we played the Hawks next, and we kind of need to beat them anyways. So that would have us above the Hawks, right? But if we're tied with just Toronto, we fall behind them in the tiebreaker as like the 9 seed. But if we're tied with Atlanta and Toronto at the same time, then we go to the 8 seed. So I kind of needed that to happen, and I need Toronto to lose. They have tough games coming up against the Bucks and the Celtics. So
I'm not sure if this is what you were talking about, but I saw this earlier. I mean, I'm sure there's more. Let me lower this. This is what the NBA communications page tweeted out. There was something about the Eastern Conference or more teams in the East, but it said like Sacramento clinches Pacific Division title with a win, which that didn't happen, or Suns lost. That didn't happen either. I just wanted to show you.
Shout out to Orlando, because they were in 13th before today, and of them, Indiana and Washington, they're the only one of those 3 teams still alive. They're not going to make it, obviously, because
but they've won 34 games, dude. That is huge going forward. Man.
Next year, they will be above 500 if they're healthy. Assuming they're healthy, they'll be above 500.
Who knows what they're going to do in the offseason too? But man, the future's looking bright for them as well.
Imagine they got Wemby as well.
Oh, it'd be so over.
And they have our pick. Like they have the Bulls pick as well. I think. Well, yeah, they have it anyways. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the CBA? Or real quick, is there any other standings talk or any other teams you want to talk about? But if not, we can talk just real quick about the CBA stuff, and then I want to react to something after we're done talking.
So the Knicks clinched the playoffs today.
Yeah, congratulations to them, man. That's good.
Not much there. I'm trying to look if there's anything.
Because there's still games being played, but I don't think it's really gonna like affect the standings too much. Bucks beat the Sixers.
Still frauds.
The Heat are frauds. Cavs beat the Pacers.
I will say, actually, like just one thing, I would not sleep on the Pelicans still, because on Wednesday last week when they played the Warriors, I think they lost that game. They blew it like late. But they said that Zion was cleared for on-court activity and he'd be reevaluated in a week. I know we've heard that all like too many times, but dude, a week from now is going to be on Wednesday. And Chris Haynes said that he might be back for the last 2 games of the year, right? They've won 7 of their last 10. They've looked great without him. Just wait till he gets back, because remember they were the 1st seed when he was there.
And they were really damn good earlier this season. I kept hyping them up. That's how good
I will say, if they play Memphis in the first round, the Pelicans will win. You can right here, you can take it whatever you want. The Pelicans will beat the Grizzlies in the first round if Zion's back. And I think they'd still make it a series even without him. But if they play, Pelicans.
Sorry, man. I was listening to something going on out here. I'm so sorry, man. But I did hear what you said. Yeah, the Pelicans are really good. And I think I was kind of talking about this with, who was I talking about this with? Sort of like the Suns right now, that they're getting momentum at the right time, and fingers crossed that we stay healthy. And hopefully, Zion comes back. Brandon Ingram's been back. He's been cooking and all that. And it's like, if the Pelicans get somewhat healthy, they could carry that momentum into the playoffs. There's lots of teams getting momentum into the Lake. I hate to talk about the Lakers and all that, but they won tonight again. It's like they're getting momentum.
Yeah. I just don't see I don't know. I just don't think that the Lakers will do anything. Maybe given the right matchup in the first round, they could move on. I feel like honestly Denver might be their best matchup because they've had the most success with them. But if they play Memphis, it might be harder. I don't know if they'll beat the Kings. I think everyone is sleeping on the Kings, and I don't think they'd beat them. And I almost kind of hope that the Lakers move up to the 5th seed, because I'm pretty confident you guys would beat them.
Denver is about to beat the Warriors. I mean, there's a minute left, but they're up 112, 105.
The Kevin Durant Suns era is undefeated.
Yeah.
So
6-0.
Who's going to stop that team?
Real quick, we're about to hit the hour mark, so y'all go ahead and crush that like button. Joined by my friend Super Mario Hoops. Check him out on YouTube. I since we're talking about the Lakers and all that, I saw a couple people in the chat. I think there was even a comment right here that said, Warriors lose tonight. Lakers beat the Clippers this week. I'm worried we're going to get the Lakers and the refs. And I saw somebody saying, Suns Geek, who do you want to play in the first round? I've kind of already talked about this. Would I be a little scared if we played the Warriors in the first round? Probably, but that's just me giving them the benefit of the doubt because they are the defending champions. And we all know what Steph Curry can do. We all know when Klay Thompson can get hot, how scary that is.
Suns in 5.
And this might sound like a narrative, but that road record is pretty damn bad for a reason. I think they would probably go 5 or 6, but I would obviously take the Suns. Now, people are saying, I don't want to play the Lakers because of the refs and all that. I get the worry with that, especially since Austin Reeves is apparently the greatest player in the league and nobody can stop him.
But playoff D'Lo is a consistent choker, and Anthony Davis is always due for a knick-knack injury, and it's not going to happen.
So I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I just don't know who is going to win this year. I just hope that all teams stay at least somewhat healthy. That way we can't be this this team would have beaten this team if this player was healthy. You know what I mean? I'm praying that the Suns stay healthy. I think either way, no matter who we verse, whether it's first round, Western Conference Finals, it's going to be tough. And I think worst case scenario, the Suns need to get to the finals. You absolutely have to. That is my thoughts. I don't know if you have any thoughts on all that.
I think in general, like in the West, I think what I was going to say too is, like, I guess for the Kings' sake, I think the worst case matchup for them is actually the Clippers, even without Paul George. Because I feel like, I don't know, like they haven't been able to really like put a handle on Kawhi much this year. And come playoff time, they have a lot of guys who are experienced. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. And I feel like they're going to turn it up. They got experience in their head coach as well. So it's going to be tough to beat that team. When you're looking at the Lakers, they got some kind of like missing pieces. You look at the Warriors, they haven't been great on the road. They're missing an integral piece from last year with their new dynamic with Wiggins. And we don't know what he's going to be like if he does get back. So, and those are probably the three teams. I mean, maybe the Pelicans, but I just don't think the Pelicans would beat the King. Now, maybe if Zion's back, it's a little different, but
that'd be an incredible first round.
But the Clippers they've been good both at home and on the road this year. They're one of the few teams in the West to do that. And if they move on, if the Clippers move on and then they get Paul George back, they're going to become just as serious of a threat, I think, as your Suns, and I think maybe the Nuggets as well. So yeah.
No, I agree with you, man. Even though Denver and the Warriors are still playing, I'm pretty sure the standings are set at least for tonight. And we would be playing the Warriors if the playoffs started today.
Well, if the Warriors lose this, then the Clippers will move to fifth.
Okay, yeah, my bad. They'd be tied though with the record though. 41-38 would be their record, I assume.
Yeah.
But again, the Lakers are currently the 7th seed. The Pelicans are climbing. The Wolves are falling. The Thunder somehow are still at that 10th seed.
And the Mavericks are nowhere to be found.
Yeah, the stinky Dallas Mavericks are cooked. I don't care what anybody says.
Hot take. I think the Jazz will surpass the Mavericks before the season ends. Even though they've given up clearly.
Yeah, they've definitely fallen back to reality. But
they literally could have been in the play-in mix. They could have been in the play-in mix, but they gave up. And Danny Ainge is still a hypocrite because he literally said, like, I've never built a failing tanking team. Well, then what is this? Chris Dunn's your best player, bro. Like, come on.
We don't have to spend too much time on this. But do you have any thoughts on the CBA, that new stuff that came out? I'll just say this. I am not educated enough to even pretend like I understand like the salary cap and the new CBA and all that stuff that's going on. But I do want to read you a quote. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I'm a bad reader and it's a lot to read, but I would like to get your thoughts on this. So the NBA is curbing the ability of the highest spending teams, such as the Warriors, the Clippers, et cetera, to continue running up the salary, and luxury tax will be luxury tax spending while still maintaining the mechanisms to add talent to the roster, yada, yada, yada. Another takeaway from this is, and those teams will lose several key team building mechanisms, including taxpayer mid-level exception, utilizing cash trade-ins, moving first-round picks in the draft that are 7 years away, signing free agent players in the buyout market, taking on more money that is being sent out in trades, sources said. Now, I know that not Suns Twitter. I know that NBA Twitter was panicking and saying like, oh, the NBA is trying to stop super teams and yada, yada, yada. And maybe that might be slightly true. There were some things that even I was kind of scared about. I was like, wait, why is the NBA doing this? And someone even responded to one of my tweets and said, I can't believe the players agreed to this. And again, there's still some details that are coming out. I spent like 5 minutes just looking at this. I haven't even really fully dove in to what this whole new deal's about. But one thing I will say, and I wrote this couple notes earlier, is I'm assuming there's probably going to be no lockout. Fingers crossed. Because, 7 years, that sounds pretty damn good to me. I'm not sure how I feel about the little tournament they're going to do. We can talk about that another time. Just any thoughts? I'm trying to stay positive about it, even though I've had my criticisms about Adam Silver and all that. I'm trying to stay positive about it. As long as there's no lockout, I guess. I don't know. Any thoughts, man?
Well, it seemed like most people on Twitter were saying that Mikal Bridges is about to become the GOAT because of the 65 game rule for awards. So they're like, he's gonna become like.
I noticed that too. I was like, that's interesting.
But I mean, maybe it could actually work to his advantage because right now what we see is like he's playing like an all-star caliber player.
Yeah.
So maybe next year it helps him like with all NBA. But I don't know. I think like that I don't mind. I just wish like why would they set like a certain game number on it? Like I feel like what it should be is I think there's a certain amount of games for what you qualify for like scoring title and stuff. I think it's usually like 57 games or something. I might be wrong, 57, 58.
Right.
Why don't they just make it that? You know, like it's like you have to play enough games to qualify for the scoring leader or whatever, the assist leader. And if they do that, then I feel like it wouldn't be much of a problem. Because last year we had guys who didn't qualify like yeah, I'm going to sound like a hater, but LeBron, he did not qualify last year, even for the scoring crown, even though he was just a few off. But I believe he still made All NBA like third team or something. Like that shouldn't happen.
Right,
like
right.
it should be like, meanwhile, you got another guy who's playing like 80 something games or whatever and doesn't make
Mikal
it.
Bridges.
Right. Mikal Bridges. But I don't know. I think that's okay. I just wish they'd done it like that. I hate the in-season tournament thing.
Warriors lost, by the way.
Yeah, they're bad. But I don't know. I just hate the in-season tournament thing. I don't see the point.
Yeah, I was
really,
reading it. I was like, dude, this, especially the ending. It said like the final two teams will play in an unofficial 83rd game. I was like, dude, half the players probably aren't even going to care.
And I don't know if you saw this. I don't. This is kind of weird to me, and I'm kind of confused. So Shams said yesterday, he said, game changer. The league's new collective bargaining agreement will give players the ability to invest in NBA and WNBA teams, as well as promote and or invest in sports betting and cannabis companies. So what does that mean? Like, so they could bet on their own games or like in their own teams or something like that? Like that. To me, it's sounding like Tim Donaghy or like, you know, like it's just not great. It makes no sense. Unless the only way I could see it making sense is if they had to place their bets in the off season or something and they couldn't bet for their team or something like
I'm not a betting man. I'm not a betting man, but that would actually be pretty cool.
If that's the case, then maybe. Okay. Like they can't bet on any games they play in.
Yeah.
But other than that, like that doesn't make sense. And the other thing I will say too is that like there was all this talk in this offseason and throughout this season about Vegas and Seattle getting teams back, and we don't hear anything about that, you know? Like I thought the Seattle Supersonics were maybe going to come back. All the noise was buzzing about 2025. Same thing with they're going to add a team in Vegas and stuff like that. Like, where's that? You know, unless it's like still being in the works, but like, and it's not like revealed to the public yet, but that was kind of disappointing to me because especially with how much talent there is in the league, like now it like kind of dispersed on a lot of teams. You could afford to have two expansion teams to kind of level out the playing field too. And that would also help prevent super teams as much as well.
Yeah.
So
real quick, another thing that I was reading earlier, apparently now they're going to allow a third two-way contract, which for me personally, I like that because I like seeing success stories and guys earning their spots. And
they're also going to allow they removed the limit, I guess, for 2 Supermax contracts.
Yes,
so I think Woj said like the best example of this is the Cavs, where it's like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, right? But then Evan Mobley, like can on that rookie extension, they could bring him on one too.
Even the Suns. I mean, what is it? Booker, Ayton. Kevin Durant, maybe, I don't know.
Right, I
paid a lot of money, so it's like a super max.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I don't know, but no, I think we're pretty much on the same page there. I just wanted to hear a different opinion, and again, we can probably talk about it later, because I'm sure more details will come out, and I still need to kind of do some more research and homework on it. But like I said, I kind of quote analyzed it for 5 minutes and took down some notes, trying to stay positive about it. I mean, I'm assuming the NBA is probably doing very well financially, and that's why this happened. And again, fingers crossed, praying for no lockout and everything. We just want basketball to be played. The NBA wants money. They want ratings. They want people watching. The only thing they got to figure out, though, I don't even know how it all works, is the damn, blackouts and the league pass stuff and putting games on where people can watch it. No more of these crack streams and all that.
You shouldn't have a blackout for your own team. Like,
Exactly.
I get it that they think I get, even though I'm from Indiana, I get the Chicago stuff because I'm closer to that area. I'm in that area. So it's like, but I can't watch it like on my phone if I'm like at my mom's house or something like that, because like she kind of like stopped paying for cable and stuff like that. So like if I'm there, like I can't watch it through League Pass. I gotta find other ways. That's all.
Dude, this has been a problem. Like even before the pandemic happened, I remember back like in 2019, I think Denver was one of the first teams, and their whole whatever they have going on over there, I think they were like highly affected by it. Yeah. Now it seems like it's everywhere. And even if you live in a certain state, I get comments sometimes just from random people saying, hey, was your game blacked out, or how come I can't watch this? And I feel bad, man. Even me, sometimes I can't watch certain games. It's BS, man.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But I think that's going to be pretty much it, man. I think we've talked enough about everything. I think today was a pretty good show. And for you guys watching, I do apologize for the late start. I apologize for being kind of off my game today. I promise I will be better, but I couldn't have done this show without Super Mario Hoops. So Super Mario, tell the people where to find you, man.
Actually, I had one more stat I was going to say that I did not bring up. So if the Suns do play the Lakers in the playoffs, then here's a stat. In the last 13 games they've played over the last 6 years, Kevin Durant is 12-1 against LeBron James.
Go.
And it's crazy because LeBron is 20-15 against them all time. So think about that. So just if they did play. But no. So you said where to find me. Yeah, you can find me at Supermariohoops24 on YouTube. You could find me on Twitter at SMH24. Although you won't see me tweet for 6 days because unfortunately Twitter has gotten me again. So if you want to see my funny tweets, you'll have to wait till like Saturday. But it is what it is. You can find me on Instagram, same stuff. And yeah, that's it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, thank you for being here, man. I thought today's show went very, very well. And thank you to everybody that was in the chat. Thank you for everybody who joined after the Suns Jam Session podcast show. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to ruin anything either, but me and the Suns Jam Session got some stuff going on for the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. Excited about that. Lots more content coming your way, you guys. I know it's kind of a busy news season, or it's not busy. It's a slow news season right now for the Suns. There's not much news going on, obviously. But you guys know any and all Phoenix Suns news. This is the channel for you. So follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you're not subscribed, the best way to keep supporting me is just to keep watching. Hulk, smash that like button, y'all. Tell people about Suns Geek. I know there's a lot of great Suns podcasts and great shows out there. Yes, tell your grandma, tell your cousin, tell your crazy uncle, tell Lakers fans.
Tell hobos.
Go ahead and troll a Mavericks fan, then tell them about Suns Geek. And yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. You guys are all amazing. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, go Suns.
What's up, Suns Geek?